No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
To another major story we're following right now, the breaking news out of Germany. A vehicle attack in the city of Magdeburg, killing at least 2 people and injuring dozens more, many of them seriously, at a Christmas market only a few days before Christmas. Our chief global affairs correspondent, Matthew Chance, is gathering details for us. What's the latest, Matthew?
Well, Wolf, absolutely horrific scenes just 5 days before Christmas in that German city, about 200 miles to the west of the capital, Berlin. There's video of the moment a vehicle, a black car, struck a crowded Christmas market in the town, sending sort of bodies flying left and right, leaving a trail of destruction behind it. We're not showing that video because it's just simply too horrific, but lots of casualties. We're talking about 68, possibly more casualties, at least 2 people killed. And of course, the fear is that death toll could rise because some of the injuries are said to be extremely serious. Now, the police, who have obviously arrived there in some force, have taken into custody the driver, the suspected attacker. He hasn't been named, but he has been identified as a Saudi, somebody from Saudi Arabia. But it's apparently he's been living in Germany since 2006, so nearly 20 years. So he'd be considered German by most Germans, I expect. But nevertheless, it helps to perhaps start to paint a picture of what's gone on here, because this isn't the first time. We don't know exactly what the motivation is, obviously, yet, but there's not the first, but there's been previous attacks in Germany on Christmas markets by organizations like the Islamic State. Back in 2016, more than a dozen people killed when a Christmas market was rammed by a truck back then, dozens more people injured as well. And I think the probability is that we're looking at a similar modus operandi on this occasion, but we're waiting for police to confirm that.
Peter Newman is with us as well. Peter, as we heard in Matthew Chance's report, the driver has been arrested. German officials say he's a 50-year-old man originally from Saudi Arabia, a doctor actually, and had been living in Germany since 2006. What does this description tell you?
So the profile is actually quite unusual. It's a middle-aged man, 50 years old. Typically, when we speak about this kind of terrorist attack, we suspect younger people in their 20s or even teenagers. He's a well-established man in Germany. He's a doctor who earns a living. He's highly qualified. And here comes the really interesting thing. Just in the last minutes, the German authorities released the name of the person. And if you read his Twitter profile, he has a Twitter profile, it is actually not what you think. It's someone who is a militant atheist, who considers himself to be an ex-Muslim, and who believes that Germany is Islamizing Europe. So it's actually the opposite of what you consider to be an Islamist or a jihadist or someone who is a supporter of ISIS. So I would say at this point, if it turns out to be the person that we're talking about, the motivation is very unclear.
German police just gave a press conference. What more are we learning about the victims and how this attack unfolded here?
Yeah, Gio, police giving that press conference nearly 24 hours on from this horrific attack at the Christmas market here. And they said the attack in total lasted all of 3 minutes. The driver of that BMW, he rented the BMW. He came into the market at that end and basically careered right down. There's a road just behind that police officer there. You can see there are concrete bollards, the red one there, the green one over here, trying to stop vehicles getting in. But effectively, according to police, he took advantage of one access point for the vehicles, the emergency vehicles, to get in and out of the market. We're actually joined by Shirin, a local nurse here, who was here at the time with your young daughter and your husband. I mean, just tell us where you were and what you saw and you felt.
Yes, I was here in the cabin drinking some hot drinks with my daughter and with my husband when we felt some vibration, and then we went outside.
That was the car. You could actually feel...
Yeah, we felt the car. It was so fast. It was so... We felt the hate in the car, and then we got outside and saw the car rampage over the hallway, took everything with him.
Oh, it's absolutely awful. No, you're so brave for talking to us live on TV, and we appreciate it. And you're, as a nurse, like so many people here, you told me that you rallied round. You were actually treating some of these heavily injured people just over here.
Yes, it was really many people, head on head, foot on hood. Some were broken, some
broken bones.
Yeah,
you could
broken
see.
bones. And
you actually helped reanimate someone. You did CPR on somebody just over here.
Well, just over here, yes.
And what is the mood here like in your city tonight?
I think we are all really lovely to each other and really helpful to each other. The city stands still. It's really awful, but I think we can move on. I think we can get over it.
Yeah. Even the hateful actions of one person.
Yes.
The community's coming together.
I mean, yesterday I saw how helpful everyone are, and nobody looked away, nobody ran away, and it was really. I don't have any words right now.
We've had that from other people today. Very brave people, and thank you very much for talking to us. Clearly, people are just at a loss as to why this would happen, why someone would carry out such a horrific attack, Gio. And you can probably see the church just behind the Christmas market up there. There'll be a vigil in about an hour for the victims. And as you said, we now know a 9-year-old child was among the victims, 4 adults as well who have been killed so far. And police saying 41 of the 200 people injured are in a critical condition, and some of them are fighting for their lives tonight.
50 men accused in the mass rape of Giselle PELICOT. She was drugged
unconscious by her husband. Dominique PELICOT admitted to recruiting dozens
enlisting other men
prosecutors say to rape his wife sparked outrage across
growing
France.
Global concern about violence against women.
CNN has gained exclusive access to police reports with thousands of messages that Dominique exchanged with the 50 men on trial alongside him. He didn't have to search far for his alleged accomplices. They all live within a 30-mile radius of his house in Mazan. He told police that over time, he built a network of men.
The place where they could meet, what time, what they could wear, they couldn't wear.
He allegedly told the men what drugs to buy and how to use them. This all went undetected for 10 years. Dominique PELICOT never thought his text messages or his alleged crimes would see the light of day, and they probably wouldn't have if it weren't for the events that took place right here on September 12th, when a security guard caught him red-handed filming up the skirts of several women.
No lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow. Yes.
A verdict is supposed to come down this week in just a horrifying rape case out of France. And before we get to it, I want to warn you, the details are very disturbing. That is Giselle PELICOT arriving to court with a round of applause from her supporters. Her now ex-husband is on trial, accused of drugging her with sleeping pills and allowing dozens of men who are also on trial to force themselves on her. The crux of the case is the video evidence, which prosecutors say shows the assaults over the years. Supporters have rallied around PELICOT throughout the trial. This picture is from a women's rights rally outside the court in southern France this past weekend. It says, "Merci Giselle," French for thank you. I want to bring in Catherine Porter. She's an international correspondent for the New York Times who's been covering this trial. Catherine, thank you for being here. This trial started in September, and in one of the pieces you wrote about it, you said, quote, "For more than 10 weeks, Giselle PELICOT has sat in a courtroom in Avignon, France, quietly listening to the explanations of 50 men. She has heard most say they were not guilty." How did we get here?
That's a good question. I mean, the beginning of this case was that her husband of 50 years, Dominique, was caught filming up the skirts of women in a local grocery store. And when police took his phones and his cameras, and they also took a laptop from home, they found evidence of photos of a woman who seemed to be drugged and raped. And they believed that her husband was raping her and inviting other men to come and do the same. So they started a very big investigation, and 2 months later arrested him and shocked her by telling her what they had discovered, because she had no idea whatsoever. In fact, she had suffered some kinds of strange symptoms, mostly blackouts, that she had believed were early signs of Alzheimer's or a brain tumor. The reason that this case has taken on such a huge ampleur, as they say in French, such huge volume, and really shocked the country, is that 50 men have been charged along with her husband in raping her. And she decided at the beginning of the trial to make it public. She wanted, as she said, shame to change sides and France to look rape straight in the eyes.
In France today, a panel of judges found dozens of men guilty of raping a woman whose then husband had drugged her unconscious over the course of a decade. Ali Rogan has more, and a warning: the following conversation is graphic in its language.
Gisèle Pellicot waived her right to a private trial in solidarity with other victims of sexual assault, whom she says go unrecognized.
By opening the doors to this trial, I wished for society to join in the debates that were held. I never regretted this decision.
For 3 months, she has had to sit through videos of her abuse in court, taken by her then husband, while dozens of men he recruited online assaulted her. A majority of these men said they didn't know it was rape, but all of them were found guilty in one way or another. The scale and brutality of Pellicot's abuse prompted thousands to take to the streets and has sparked a nationwide conversation about consent. Catherine Porter has been covering the trial for the New York Times. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us. What does this verdict mean for the country and for Madame Pellicot?
Well, for Madame Pellicot, it was the verdict she was looking for. But more than the verdict, she wanted to spark a large conversation in France about rape, the prevalence of rape, how the country treats rape victims. And by that measure, she's clearly succeeded. Her trial and her decision to make it public and force the country to look rape in the face by watching these videos of her comatose body being probed and penetrated by strangers has really started a national conversation about relationships between men and women, about consent, about rape culture. These type of conversations that were much more common in North America and after Me Too, but never really cracked here in France, are now fully taking place.
Cattle guys call this an Elsie Mac. She used to cut the balls off of balls. Strip them. God, what is
He deserves every second of the pain.
Liz Chaney could be in some trouble. Republican Barry Loudermilk of Georgia released a report by the House Subcommittee on Oversight on Tuesday. It recommends the FBI criminally investigate Liz Chaney. The report alleges that Chaney broke several laws, including engaging in witness tampering during her time on the January 6th investigative committee.
The subcommittee claims Chaney interfered with Cassidy Hutchinson's relationship with her lawyer, Stefan Passantino. The committee is pointing to signal messages that it released in October that show Hutchinson and Chaney in contact with each other. The subcommittee is arguing that Chaney communicating behind Passantino's back with Hutchinson constitutes witness tampering.
Passantino was accused of coaching Hutchinson into saying that she remembered little of what happened on January 6th, and that maybe she'd get a job in Trump world as a result. Hutchinson ultimately got rid of Passantino. Now, when Hutchinson reached out to Chaney, she wrote, quote, "Hi, this is Cassidy Hutchinson. I'm sorry for reaching out this way, but I was hoping to have a private conversation with you soon, if you're willing," end quote. Chaney responded by writing, quote, "I would be happy to."
Chaney spoke out on Blue Sky about Republican calls for her prosecution. She defended the January the 6th committee's work and blasted President Trump for his behaviour on January the 6th. She continued by writing in part, "Chairman Loudermilk's interim report intentionally disregards the truth and the Select Committee's tremendous weight of evidence. and instead fabricates lies and defamatory allegations in an attempt to cover up what Donald Trump did.
Liz Cheney is the biggest villain in Republican circles there could possibly be.
Why? Because she's a traitor?
When the House of Representatives said no, because she was so hateful to Trump, and the voters of Wyoming booted her out, even though the Chaney family is one of the most powerful families in that state. But when the Republicans in Congress say she witness tampered, and then the press makes it out like this is some kind of revenge play, if Liz Cheney witness tampered, she deserves the FBI being all over her front lawn. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough evidence to go in and investigate
what they're calling witness tampering. I mean, I've only looked at what they're saying so far. Obviously, they haven't produced anything else. Not that that's some new standard. It's certainly not a legal standard of witness tampering. And there is no small irony.
Yes, it
that
is.
You're going to
It
go
violates
after
a
her
federal law.
Well, depends on what she did. And I
no,
don't know.
look it up.
So far.
No.
Cuomo,
you're wrong.
I know what the law is.
And you're a lawyer.
I know I am. And I was damn good with it. What I'm saying is, we'll see.
If she did it.
We'll see.
If she tried to convince Cassidy Hutchinson, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you give her due process, certainly. But if she tried to convince Cassidy Hutchinson, all right, behind closed doors, which is the allegation, to testify a certain way in front of the J6 committee, then this woman violated federal law, period.
We'll start the ass kissing with you.
But I want to go a step further. I did write a piece at Gingrich 360 describing the de facto president, because it's clear. And if you watch day by day, President Trump, both in his international relations, I mean, he may have broken Trudeau's government in the last 3 days because Trudeau's strongest ally resigned in disgust at how Trudeau had caved into Trump. And literally, I think Trudeau may lose a vote of confidence in Canada. He clearly, when he went to Notre Dame, was treated in Paris as, in effect, the president. He got a presidential welcome. He met with, I think there were 82 government leaders from around the world. He kept meeting with key people. And I think that President Trump is already beginning to have a direct impact. In fact, even Disney has begun to drop various woke things from their planned presentations, I think, in response to this. So this is one of the most amazing transitions and as a historian, I don't remember anything that was quite this decisive in the opening weeks after an election and before an inauguration.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is not dancing. His spat with President-elect Donald Trump is now causing some political problems for his own country, the entire country. Trump threatened Canada with tariffs if they did not do something to stop the flow of illegal immigrants from the northern border. Trudeau then flew to Mar-a-Lago. You remember that was a couple of weeks ago. He sat at the dinner table with Trump. And during that conversation, Trump reportedly told Trudeau that if Canada's economy cannot survive without ripping off the United States, maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau should be governor. Trump later doubled down on the nickname Governor Trudeau in a social media post. In an attempt to punch back, Justin Trudeau instead insulted American voters, implying that we are sexist.
We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult sometimes, march towards progress. And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president. Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly. But I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot. It's serious because it's very important.
Of course, you may have to find him at his house because he may not be the prime minister for very long, but let's watch and see. Now, Trump's America First policies are putting Trudeau's role as prime minister in jeopardy. Trudeau's finance minister resigned over differences over how to confront Donald Trump. And now Trudeau is reportedly weighing a resignation for himself.
He tells the fighter he's from the city of Homs and has been in the cell for 3 months.
Okay, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
He clutches my arm tightly with both hands.
Okay. Does anyone have any water? Water. My. Okay, it's water. It's water. Okay. Okay. Okay, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
We start to walk him outside. Thank God you are safe. Don't be afraid, the fighter says. You are free. This is the third prison they brought me to, he says. The third prison. After 3 months in a windowless cell, he can finally see the sky.
It was a moving moment, one that earned Ward much praise for her reporting and for documenting it. The segment positively took Jake Tapper's breath away.
Another just absolutely remarkable report. CNN's Clarissa Ward in Damascus doing vital journalism. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
But here's the problem. There are allegations that Ward was duped and that man was not maybe a prisoner at all, or at least not who he said he was. The Syrian fact-checking website Verify Psy reported that the individual in question had provided a fake name. They pointed out inconsistencies in his story, say that he appears far too clean-shaven for someone who has been imprisoned for months, and according to Verify Psy, his true identity is Salama Mohammed Salama, who worked for the Syrian Air Force under Mossad and engaged in theft and extortion. Verify Psy wonders if CNN deliberately fabricated the story. Now, a deliberate fabrication seemed unlikely to me, but the questions raised are, in fact, important ones, because something definitely was amiss here. The New York Post described Salama as a notorious torturer working on behalf of the Assad regime. The Gray Zone's Wyatt Reed excoriated Ward for becoming the unwitting media accomplice of a widely hated Assad official, and Hassan Akkad, a filmmaker and activist who was previously held as a prisoner in Syria by the Assad regime, also had doubts about the video. He wrote on X, "I think this is staged. CNN should investigate. Happy to be proven wrong." He said the cell looked unlived in, adding, "Individuals are never locked in communal cells. That never happens in detention centers. None of the clips surfaced of people being released showed a single person in a communal cell. I watched every single clip." CNN decided to investigate the matter. In a statement, the network said, "We reported the scene as it unfolded, including what the prisoner told us with clear attribution. We have subsequently been investigating his background, and we are aware that he may have given a false identity. We are continuing our reporting into this and the wider story." Now, later, the network admitted that the man in question had in fact given CNN a false identity. He was indeed a lieutenant who served Bashar al-Assad.
What a bunch of dumbasses. Yeah, really.
Caroline, I'm so thrilled to have you with me. And you would think, ABC, having just paid $15 million for a defamation lawsuit, would think not to engage in conspiracy theories about assassination attempts, but I guess that's too much to ask from The View. I mean, I got to ask you, because they said it, are you aware of any plots from Elon Musk to push President Trump down the stairs?
From my perspective as a Republican who didn't support Trump, this may sound weird, I think Democrats focus too much on Trump. People who were going to be with Donald Trump were going to be with Donald Trump. There needed to be more of a, this is who we are, this is what we're proactively fighting for. And I can think of 3 or 4 policies that were laid out by the vice president. She talked about this support for elderly parents. She talked about these first-time home buyer payments. But they need a
economy.
But again, that's a platitude. What does it mean? And I didn't know that by
in a 90-page
but
white paper.
But in this world we live in, when you have 3 months especially, I don't know that people knew what she was for. And then a lot of her positions in 2020, she was on the complete opposite side of now.
And that's the problem with Democrats that I've highlighted numerous times, is they talk at people. They don't talk to them and ask them what they want. They have an agenda that they expect the American people to get behind. And if they don't get behind it, they try to shame them, name call them, make them feel bad, say that they're evil people. And that was the playbook that the Democrats used which got them absolutely whooped in this last election.
Hallelujah. Amen. God bless. Amen. Hallelujah.
963 is the decline as we speak on the Dow, but it's pretty broad-based.
Very broad-based, but remember, we're still up 23% year-to-date, so we have had a great year. But this was not the meeting that we wanted. This Fed, I mean, it was a hawkish cut. Not only that, but they said it was a close call. We all expected 25 basis points, but the close call, you mentioned there were 4 that did not want to cut, that don't vote, but they didn't want to cut. 1 dissent. That's number 1. Number 2, I mean, 4 cuts to 2, I think was kind of expected. Some thought maybe 3, but then again, he talked about, well, the reason we're not cutting as aggressively is because inflation is too high. Well, then that begs the question, why are they cutting to begin with? And I thought he was very confusing in terms of the labor market. He went back and forth. Is it hot? Is it cold? I don't know. So the point being is, why did they cut today? And are we now going to have to think about next year them not cutting at all? What you talking about, Willis? And that's what the market is digesting.
I mean, he was explicit, Mike, really, in saying that he doesn't see a hike as one of the, possible outcomes. But the point was made today, you just don't really know. And they don't really know. They just don't know what inflation's going to do. It's been stubborn, slightly stubborn, I think is how he characterized it.
Well, you never know. And he always tries to wave you away from the summary of economic projections. But the reality is there's a lot of dissonance in there. All right, it's stuff we're saying. So they're saying year-end PCE only gets down to 2.5%, and yet somehow there's 2 cuts in there, and yet 4 people said don't cut today, even before we get down to 2.5. And so naturally, as you get toward neutral and you start to have both mandates kind of almost have this interplay where it seems like they're working against each other, then the market has to throw up its hands. Now, the market was also in a very brittle spot.
That's right.
Super narrow. The NASDAQ 100 is getting crushed right here. Tesla down 7% after being up a few percent. So all that mechanical stuff looks very short term like a systematic sell down, a liquidation, because you had the VIX jump to 24. I said earlier, very wrongly, that the VIX at 15 looked high based on the S&P being so static for a month. And that's clearly the case, that too many people thought this might be a clearing event and we get a catch up by the average stock. We're getting a catch down by the mega caps. All the round numbers are gone. 6,000 S&P, 45,000 Dow, 20,000 composite. So we're going to reset. We're at the 50-day moving average in the S&P. So technically speaking, this could be your flush. This could be where you finally have people, kind of lose a little bit of their hope for the short term. Not that much has changed. I think the big problem here, though, is if rates are going to be around this area, you're just not going to clear the housing market. Okay, mortgage rates are above 7% again.
Which the Fed chair himself called weak.
Exactly. And so I think no more cuts is perfectly fine if everybody had maximum confidence of the durability of the economic growth trajectory.
Joining me now is the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Joseph Franciscan. He oversaw special operations and combating terrorism at the Pentagon. Deputy Chief of Staff, you're working in the drone space. It's fair to say you got a pretty good idea of what's going on up there.
I'd like to think so, Blake.
I'd like to think so.
Having me.
Thanks for being on. What's up there?
It's wild, right? Defense begins at home. This is absolutely a national security threat, and it's a shame that it's taken so long for the feds to get out in front of this and addressing it head on. It's not inconceivable to think that these drones could be used for more nefarious purposes than the possible surveillance that we're seeing in New Jersey today.
Right. Okay, so I'm gonna get there in a second, but the White House has basically said nothing to see here. This is hobbyist. This is regular usage. Others are wondering if this is the government behind it. And the government, the DOD, Defense Department, says no Defense Department assets. Do you believe do you believe that that's what this is right now?
I would say probably since these have been spotted, now going forward, it's probably been less of the government. And I'd ask you, which government? Is it us? Is it our adversaries? Things like that. When I was serving in the Defense Department, one of the biggest things that we heard from base commanders was addressing the drone threat. The need, the unmet need, was addressing this.
Okay.
Both from a surveillance, both from protecting of the people and the facilities. It's a critical threat that just has gone unmet.
14 suspected Tren de Aragua members were arrested after a violent home invasion in Aurora, Colorado. where cops say 2 victims were kidnapped, bound, one of them stabbed. It happened at the same apartment complex, remember that one, where this armed takeover happened this summer, back in August. One Aurora councilwoman has been speaking out from the beginning.
I am tired of this being portrayed as just another gang in Aurora. This is so heinous. This is a whole different level, and I am tired of it. I've been called a liar. I've been told this was in my imagination. This has been downplayed, and people are suffering, and I will not be silenced on this issue.
Well, that woman in that soundbite, Danielle Jurinsky, joins us right now from Aurora. Danielle, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I don't get it. They called, when you were talking about simply things that had happened, they called you essentially delusional. She's a liar.
Nothing to see here, please.
It's all your imagination. You're not a liar. You're a truth teller. And it was not your imagination.
That's right. And it's interesting because our governor was asked about his comment yesterday if he would like to update that. And he really had nothing to say about this. This is unfortunately not something that you want to be able to say, I told you so on, but I told you so. And nobody wanted to listen to me. This very much turned into political theater leading up to the presidential election. And many people have suffered. This isn't just assault. This isn't just fist fights. This is absolute torture, what some of these people have been going through. And once the Americans were moved out of the complex, this is the most vulnerable population left. These are other migrants who some of them don't even really realize where they are. They were simply dropped off in the middle of the night in some cases.
Right. And some of the torture regarding this home invasion, this most recent one there, one of the people had their fingernails pulled out. I mean, it's absolutely barbaric. There's been a sea change, though, in Aurora because you've got a new police chief now who apparently is taking this more seriously.
He is. He led a strong press conference yesterday. The police response to these 2 victims was huge. The police presence in this neighborhood right now is huge. He has made clear that we will not stand for this.
Right.
It is a new day in the Aurora Police Chief's office.
Yeah. And Danielle, before you go, who is it who has wanted you to essentially be quiet?
Well, it's somewhere between the Aurora mayor, the Denver mayor, the governor of Colorado, and I think local liberal media.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
And that's the game!
You've disconnected from the hive mind. Explain.